All right, cool. Be the market expert, and we're gonna jump into by request InfoSparks. And so what we're on right now is we're just on Connect. We're in RE Colorado, and through RE Colorado, we have a couple different applets depending on what your configuration looks like. We have all these down here. There's more, right? Like there's a couple more, but here's what all the applets that we have accessible to us through our membership with RE Colorado. And so we're going to touch InfoSparks right here, and it's going to bring us to a screen that looks very, very similar to this. And it's kind of interesting, right? Like as we're looking through InfoSparks, we have your price range. So you can actually say like all price ranges or different dollars. You could also go through and customize it if you want to. Like you could go add, clear, you can do a bunch of different things. We have residential property subtypes. So if you're like, you know what, I just want condominiums, townhouses, multifamily, all homes in the area, you can pull that information. Your bedroom count, bathroom count, and then square footage. And then we have this bar over here that we could actually do years. So just for the quick overview synopsis of this, right? Like the very next line that we can go through, we can actually print this information. We could share it to social media, right? Like PDF, social media posts. You could do it embedded if you want to put on your website, your blog. Like you could actually do a whole lot of stuff with this, or just a CSV file, which at the grand scheme of things is really just an Excel spreadsheet. Two different ways to look at it. We have a line, or we can do a bar graph. And so for kind of what we're going to play with today, we'll kind of do more of this line graph. You can do 3 years, 1 year, 5 years, this max thing, and then we can do it however we want to do it. Like we can do a rolling 3 months, a rolling 6 months, a rolling 12 months, or just monthly data. So when we go down a little bit further, we have the ability to select. We just more look at closing prices, new listings coming on the market, active listings, pending listings, closing listings, days in the ML. All right, we got so much information here that we can actually go through and we can actually pull very, very data specific information for our clients. So we can add an area, right? So we can do the entire MLS, or right, we could do city, county, zip code, association. So let's just have some fun. Let's go by city. Now we're able to go through. Obviously, I'm going to choose Arvada. And here's our default, right? So it's saying we're going to search the entire MLS for Arvada. And it's interesting because the way we still have it up, we can actually compare the entire MLS versus Arvada. And we're talking median close price. So the way this thing's set up right now, it's all price ranges. We're going through all property types, all the bedrooms, bathrooms, the sizes, as well as years built. So this is pulling literally every house, condo, townhome, multifamily, you name it, in the entire MLS, which is the blue, and Arvada, and we're looking at median close price. So let's change it a little bit. Let's have some fun. Let's go just for 1 year's worth of data. And here we go. Here's the median close price. We can actually see more of these ebbs and flows as we're going through here and actually look like what is happening for a rolling 12-month cycle. All right, that's how we have this set up. It's a rolling 12-month cycle. This is not year-to-date information. As you can see this, right? This is going back to 2023, and we're going all the way to October 2024. So we can actually go through here. We can actually compare what is happening versus in Arvada specifically versus the rest of the MLS. We can go through and say, you know what? I'm really curious about just new listings. All right. So here we go. We got new listings, Arvada versus the MLS. We knew that would skew it. But let's say that we're more curious about a $655,000 price point. We're really just interested in single family homes. We're talking about 4 bedrooms or more. Let's go up 4 bathrooms or more. And let's say big square footage. So we can kind of go through and we can see like the line graph, it's such skewed data at this point. That's why this line graph looks a little bit different. But let's just go all the way to October of 2024. We can actually see that we had home prices of $655,000 plus in single family residences only that have 4 bedrooms or more, 4 bathrooms or more, They're 2,500 square feet. And let's go one more. Let's go, they were built in 2001 or later. Then we can actually see that in October, new listings that hit the market that met that criteria, there's 8,398 homes in the entirety of the MLS, and 247 of them came from Arvada specifically, right? Like we can actually go through, we can actually do a couple cool things, right? Like what about days in the MLS? Like we talk about this a lot. Like we're talking about homes that are priced wrong versus homes that are priced right. And we can actually draw those conclusions in the MLS, right? When we're talking about average or median. And so let's go average, right? So the average data, we're taking all of them, we're dividing them by the total, and that gives us the average. And so this is what I would say is probably, the homes that are priced wrong at this point when this data is being crunched. So here we go again. We're still looking single family, 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2,500 plus, built in 2001 or later, $655,000 price point or more. We're still looking in Arvada, and it's kind of interesting. Like as we're going through here, we can see that the average days on market in Arvada is 37 versus the rest of the MLS, which is 52. So we're seeing that even Arvada specifically, and I get that there's outliers, there's going to be different places, right? Especially when we're dealing with rural areas, that it's taking 37 days to sell versus 52 in the rest of the MLS. But let's say that we price the home right? Like, because this is what I like to do. I like to go more with your median days. Because median days, if we keep this in mind, right, they're taking out all the outliers. Average is keeping the outliers in. So you got a 0 day on the MLS, which obviously wouldn't show up. 0 days on the MLS will not show up because it actually has to pull the data. I would probably argue that most 1 days on the MLS, probably even 2, probably don't show up either, only because they have to be able to go in, scrape the data, and use it. But what this is saying is this is going from, we're going to still say 0, from 0 to 365 days in the MLS. I'm going to go 365 only because that's as long as a listing agreement that we can have in Colorado for is 365 days. So let's just pretend that we're all following the rules, and this house is only that long. And then it's just chunking it down, right? It's going all the way down. It's getting rid of all the outliers and it's coming into the middle. That middle number, if we were to look at this thing, it's saying that in the entire MLS, if homes are priced right, because that's truly what I'm basing this off of, 28 days on the MLS, and in Arvada, 15 days on the MLS. And we can see how it kind of fluctuates, right? So we went back to September, it was 12. We went back to August, it was 13, and it kind of ebbs and flows. And here we go. Like we know this, higher interest rates for in this area, 21 days, 19 days. So we can truly take some of this information and truly start diving deeper into it. Taylor, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there a specific one you want to touch and play with?
Actually, yes, I was kind of playing with some for zip code. I just want to look at appreciation. So if you want to throw in 80202 under 600, they're getting approved today. So I just kind of wanted an overview of a couple different zip codes that they were looking at as far as appreciation goes.
Cool. So 80202, you want to talk about
And
appreciation.
townhouses included as well as single family, nothing else.
Cool. So here we go, guys. We can see that we can add this on here. So now we have single family and we have townhouse. You see, if we hover over it, there'll be the minus sign right here. So that's how we know that it's been added, is that we can actually minus it. All bedroom count, I'm assuming. Do you want anything more specific than that?
I'm just kind of put an overview.
Just an overview. Perfect. All right. So then we're going to go, let's go to closed price. And again, let's go with median, right? So when we're talking about average is really taking all of them, and it just depends on what you guys are wanting to do, right? This is what I think about with numbers. Numbers tell a story and numbers lie. Whatever I want the numbers to tell, like I can use those numbers to tell whatever story I want to tell with those numbers. And so when we're looking at this thing that's close price, the median, again, we're taking all the outliers out and we're saying like this is the median sales price, like versus all the other outliers, we throw them away. Average, we take all of them, even the worst priced homes and the underpriced homes, like the non-arm's length transactions would be included in that. And then we just take them all and we divide them, we get a different number. So let's go median. And this is what they have closed for specifically. So here we go again. We have the entire MLS versus 80202. Interesting, right? So we're talking about single family homes and townhomes, which is a little bit harder to look at. And I would almost probably break this up because this is probably what's skewing it a little bit. So let's just break it up real quick, Taylor. I'm going to go townhomes to start because that's going to probably give us a little bit better of a number. So we're talking, did you have a different price range that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I was trying to play with it. I want to keep it under 600,000, but they break it up very weird if you hit custom to only ending in something like 999, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. So we can just go, I guess,
Yeah.
cool. So we're just going to go $599,999 or less. Is how we'll kind of play with this. All right. So if we look at this thing, it truly breaks it, right? So if we're playing with this thing, it has the entire MLS, but it's not really pulling anything for a townhome. Hold on. Yep, there's the issue. All years. Still not a whole lot of data. All right. This is getting fun. All right. So we're talking $599,000 or less. And so I'm assuming what Taylor's really doing this for is for a listing appointment. We're looking at townhomes specifically, all bedroom counts, all bathroom counts. Sure, give me the square footage, all years built. We're doing very specific zip code 80202. On this right hand side, we're going to do
switch it to single family if you want as well.
All right. Yeah, let's play with this one real quick and then we'll switch over. I like that. So if we're looking at the entire MLS and when we're talking about townhomes specifically, we can actually see that we have a positive 4.7% appreciation, right? So we're talking like this time period, January 2023 to October 2024, we've seen homes appreciate in the entire MLS about 4.7%. Now, 80202 is breaking because it's really only giving us information for January through March. And so we can actually kind of see it go down. And so we would have to divide that, right? So if we wanted to, we could take, oh, no, it's even. It's even all the way across at 410,000. So it doesn't really change much. I thought it was 415 down to 410, but it's still the same. It's just 410 all the way across the board for those 3 months. And so what that is alluding to, and we'd have to go dive deeper. Let's trust but verify. We're not going to really verify today, but that doesn't look like there's townhomes specifically in the last few months that meet this criteria. And by this criteria, I mean less than $600,000 because that's really all we did here. So let's switch it. Let's go to single family home. Let's remove townhomes. So here it goes. It's pulling the numbers again. Interesting. Taylor, what zip code? I mean, obviously this is Denver, right? What are we looking at here?
Because that's going to be primarily downtown, so I'm not really too surprised. But maybe switch to 80203, 6, or 9. I guess that probably gave you the closest zip code to the city, so you're probably not finding much.
All right, cool. We got way more data now. All right, so yes, we pulled some other. Yeah, Taylor gave us one that was impossible to do because that price point obviously does not exist. But let's do this custom one again. Let's clear it. Let's go 599. Click over. Hit done. All right, cool. There's some data. We have a little bit of data finally. Cool. So again, guys, we're going single family residence. You can see that's the only one with a minus on it. So that means none of these others are added. All bedroom count, all bathroom count. We're going all sizes, all years built. Perfect. So on the far right-hand side, this is what we can do. The entire MLS that meets this criteria, single family home under $600,000, we've seen those homes in the entire MLS appreciate about 2.5%. Now, if we go to 80206 specifically, we can actually see there's been 1.7% appreciation. Now that's all price points. Now let's take it to 599 or less because that's where it's going to change a little bit. Here we go. The entire MLS 487. It's gone up 0.6% versus Taylor's zip code of 80206. That median price point is $506,000 and it's gone down 5.4% for single family homes in this neighborhood. So, or in the zip code specifically. So we can actually go see here is the zip code, and somewhere in May, it started to drop. All right. So we see it drop July, it kind of flat lines into August, and then September, we start popping back up. All right. So this is kind of what I would say. Like this is where we take some of these numbers. Oh, just so everyone knows, right? When you're doing these different things that you might want to do, we can take like the parts divided by the wholes, right? And that's kind of how we're going to figure out some percentages. And so if we were to go through and look at this thing, let's go, here's your part. So, right, let's go 475. And then we have 506. So we have 7% appreciation right here, right? So that's what this looks like. So we've seen 7% appreciation over this 1 month. A little bit less than 7, it's like 6.2%. But that's kind of what this looks like right here. So then we can actually take this information and we can say, you know what, like if we really wanted to have this conversation, it's flatlined here. But this is where if we were to have fallen in this month, like we can have a conversation with our clients, say, hey, you know what, we actually have seen, 6%, almost 7% appreciation from August into September, but we saw a pretty big decline back in May where we went from a median price point of 540 all the way down to 475. But then we've kind of appreciated. What we could also do is we could take, your 506 and your 540. And again, that's still 7%. So that's like 6.3%. So it's declined 6.3% from its high of 540 to today. And so you could have conversations around that, right? Especially when you're having conversations, right? Because if we're looking at this stuff, this is all coming from the MLS. So we know these are homes that have hit the MLS. And so as our consumers are looking through Zillow and pulling their Zestimate of what their neighbor's home sold for, we can actually pull this information and kind of have some conversations. If you wanted to switch it to average, it's going to fluctuate, right? So here we go. Here's our average. Still same thing. We've seen 0.43% decrease for this entire stretch versus the MLS, which is only 0.6% decrease, right? 0.6% as we're going through here. And again, we can see this real big dip. And because we're dealing with different numbers here, because we're taking all the outliers and we're playing with them. Is that kind of what you wanted to look at, Taylor, with just like the appreciation? That's kind of how I would play with that a little bit. It's going to be a little bit harder, only because we're talking about close price. So we would really have to go and take what they bought it for and then versus these close prices. And again, it's still a little different to play that way.
Yeah, I think honestly utilizing this data for so many options for buyers that are looking, I just want to get like an overarching stats for their area. And then I also want to go through year over year for my past clients as well and just kind of see where they're sitting on that docket of appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can also kind of go through and look at this as well. Like as we're going through, if we're sitting down at the dining room table and having the conversation with these consumers, we can actually look through here and then the percentage of closed dollars to the list price. We can actually see like here's our median versus our average. And we can actually have a conversation with these consumers about the falls of overpricing the house, right? Like 77%, right? So we priced the home wrong back in June, we would have been going down to 77% of our list price. That was the median, right? 86%. We're going through, we're kind of flatline at this 93%. And so then we just really have to go look at the enemy units, right? Like we're going through, we're looking at the MLS and seeing what homes have truly gone through. We can actually go look at showings. And so I like this data as well. Like if we're going through here, we can actually tell our consumers, right? So here's the thing. Let's say you do take an overpriced home, right? We've all been guilty of it. You sell enough houses, you're going to take an overpriced house. It's zero fun, but sometimes you do it. And if we were to do it and look at this thing, so here we go, this MLS zip code 80206, we can actually see that back in May, it took 19 showings before they got their offer. And that's kind of how I look at it. This, obviously, there could have been some houses that fell out of contract. Yet we could look at this information and we can say, "Hey, consumer, I'm taking this price, this home at this dollar amount." And if we're looking at this, what we know is that we're probably a little bit overpriced. And so if we get to about 19 showings, because that's what it's taking for us to actually close a home, then we know that we're overpriced and we probably want to drop something, right? Like we could go through or go showings to pending. All right. So we can actually say that here we go, 19 showings till we got a pending offer. This is probably a little bit more clear. There's 9, there's 9, there's 8 in this zip code specifically. So then we can actually put mechanisms in our contract, right, in our exclusive right to buy, that says that that seller and agent agree to sign a amend extend with broker to drop the sales price to X after 8 showings and no offers. Right? Like we could use that data. Like that's where I would use this data where this would show up, is that I would say, like, hey, based off of this, if we get to 9 showings and we still don't have an offer in hand, we're overpriced. And we can kind of go through and have those conversations, days in the MLS. We can also warn them, right? We can actually say that, hey, we know that it takes about 7 days on market. So if we get to 7 days and we still haven't gotten an offer, we probably need to drop the price. We're overpriced again. That's where I'm pulling all this data from. Cool. I think there's another one that's kind of fun that I don't know if you guys play with. Was that all of them, Taylor? Was that kind of all we wanted to play with on this? Okay, perfect.
Charles, what
Another
was
one
that one that you were just in?
that was InfoSparks.
InfoSpark. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. We also have Fast Stats. So Fast Stats is a little bit different. So this is what it looks like when you pull it up. And we can actually go and look at information by a couple different areas. So obviously, I'm choosing Jefferson County, and we can actually go in a little bit deeper and we'll say Arvada. We can change the time periods, right? You can do it. And so here we go again, Taylor. So like if you really wanted to play with some of this, you can go back and grab historical information for the city specifically. I don't think we can go down to zip code in this one. But if we go through, let's say September 2024, so your most recent, and let's grab it. So then you actually have some information. We can actually go through and say Arvada specific over the last year, right? Because we're doing year over year data. This is 2023 September, 2024 September. We can actually go through and we can see that we've had 9.9% more listings. We've had 10. Let's round it up. Let's call it 10%. We've seen 10% more listings hit the market. We have seen 26.8%. Let's round it up again. 27% more units closed. And we've seen the median price point go up 1% in Arvada specifically. We can go through, we can pull all this data, active, pending, new listings, closed, days in the MLS. Look at this, guys. We went from 26 days to 33. That's 26% change year over year, September to September data. We can go through, and they do go 2023, 2024, but let's go grab this average price, right? So median, average, right? So again, these are outliers. These are removing the outliers. Percentage of close price to list price. So here we can say that 0.7%, 1%, right? Not even 1%, but 1% is what we are changing the list price if we overprice the house, right? So that could be $10,000. Depending on your price point, that could be $50,000, depending on what price point you guys are playing at. New listings, here's your bar graph showing the same data that we just looked at, right? So here's September. We had 213 last year versus this year at 234. Year to date, right? We had new listings. We had 1,800 last year versus 211 this year. Closed listings, here we go again. 142 closed last year versus 180 this year. 1,500 in totality versus 1,576 in 2024. So guys, all kinds of cool information that we can actually pull from this as well. So we can actually go through and have the conversations. Like, we want to know why prices are kind of staying steady, yet we're seeing some weird things happen. It's because there's inventory, right? Like, we still don't have a ton of inventory. We can see that we've seen an increase, obviously, right? Like, we've seen 16% more inventory this September versus last September. Interest rates are a big piece of that. Interest rates are definitely skewing a lot of the numbers that we're playing with. What we can also do, again, on Fast Stats, we could go to showing time showing index. Let's go September. So it's interesting, like, we can look at this data. So here's September, August, September, 2023, 2024, 2024, right? So we can actually go through and we can look at this, and it says the showing index of RE Colorado is down 20% compared to this time last year. So we're seeing less showings. It's going through and it's saying regional showing time showing index for the Western region, which it puts us in, right? Here's Colorado on the map. We're sitting at 88.1% for our showing index, which is just the strength of showings, versus the national showing index, which is 124.2. Again, just the strength of showings. Like, we're going to see it. Here's RE Colorado versus the West. And again, this is kind of where we're living historical data, just kind of pushing through and saying, like, hey, this is the amount of showings that we're getting. So showings are moving. Another thing that we could go through, go back. Here's just your monthly indicators. So there's a lot of information here. So this is all of RE Colorado, and it's pulling all the information. It's going pending listings, new listings. It's actually showing you, here's 2022, 2023, 2024, September data versus year to date. So it's going through, we can actually look and see that things are moving. 2022, we had 60,000 homes that were closed year to date, January to September in 2022, which was up 5.2%. Then in 2023, we went down to 49,000 closed units, which was 17% down. And then we fell even further by another 2%. So we are 19% down in closed units versus 2022. These are conversations that we can go through, and like, we're pulling this days on MLS. Homes are sitting longer. This is the information that we should be taking to listing appointments and actually showing both buyers and sellers kind of what is happening, both on a Colorado level, as well as in their specific areas that they're kind of looking for or selling. So this was Fast Stats. And guys, this all just lives right in here, right? We can see when you're the subscriber resources, you have InfoSparks, which is if you want to get very, very granular and look at your zip code versus, you know, a full year, 3 years, 5 years time, you can pull all that data. Or your Fast Stats, where it's actually going through and it's just pulling cities by month. And we can see that we can go all the way back. It's going all the way back to 2012. We can actually go through and look. And so if you're talking about these neighbors, right, and we want to be like, okay, well, let's talk about 2021. And let's look at December 2021 for fun. So here we go. Let's skip through a little bit. So December active listings in 2019, we had 13, 2021. 2020, we had 7,687. In 2021, we had 3,000 listings. Again, money was cheap, right? Like, we're looking at this thing. Here's a historical average up to 2020, one, it goes a little bit further in here, but guys, we can see this ebbs and flows and just how we've had significantly less inventory, and all this was driven by interest rates, pending sales, new listings. Like we can actually see that we're actually getting above the weirdness, right? We just know that we're talking about a healthier market 2019 and before. 2020 got weird. COVID, 2021, super low interest rates, got even weirder. We actually had way less inventory. It's just that things were moving so quickly. That's how it got so unhealthy. All right, so that's just, guys, that's Colorado data. Like if you wanted to pull it, I do want to go through it and show you this. 8 states are back above pre-pandemic housing inventory levels. These 3 states are likely next. We don't care about the likely next, but we can see 2017, 1.2, 1.3, 1.2, 700,000, 56, 72, 738, 953. This is total inventory, October inventory, active listings. And it's going from 2017 at 1.2 million to less than a million. Let's call it 950,000. And so that's 2024. It's speculating that what we will see in 2025 is 1.1. And then come 2026, we should see about 1.4. But here we go. 1 year inventory change in an active housing inventory sales shift between 23 to 24, Colorado. So guys, what we know is we're looking at this thing, we have more inventory than what we did in 2023. And so we knew this, we just looked through this data, 41%. So it's going through, obviously we're not Florida. Florida's pretty big. We know that the panhandle, right? We know as we're looking at the panhandle, these guys' inventory is increasing. Texas, I don't know what they're doing. I feel like that number should be higher. I don't know why it's so low. But as you're going through, we know that a lot of people were moving to a lot of these different states, and that's why they were increasing as much as they were, because they started building it. If we look at 2019 versus 2024, we have 7% more inventory today than we did in 2019. And so here we are, all these green states have more inventory. And as we're looking at this thing, obviously we're not Texas and we're not Florida. They have a lot of inventory. They have a lot of people. This is where people were moving during COVID. And then things have changed for them. So that's why there's inventory and people were building a lot of houses, but we're 7% more inventory than we were in 2019. There's just a dot graph kind of representing the same thing, right? To where we're actually seeing where the inventory is actually being built. And so kind of like as we're going through, we see Texas is pretty big, right? This will be that 100,000, Florida, 100,000, kind of going through building and building and building. I do want to look at this real quick, just so you guys know. I like the headline. This is where I landed on. Don't be surprised if a 61-year-old white woman buys your house. And it got my attention immediately. I'm like, cool, what's this article about? And it's going through and it's talking about the demographics of home buyers right now. So I think this is the only thing that we should be looking at. It says median age of home buyers. Home buyers continue to get older. Okay. So here we go. We're going from the 1980s up to 2025, right? Because that's, 2 months away at this point. And we look at this thing and we can see that first-time home buyers, the average age or the median age for a first-time home buyer right now is 38 years old. And you can see that population, I mean, it's a small population. So when we're going through 38, right? So just a little bit, obviously before 40, we can look at repeat. It's saying that repeat home buyers right now, the median age is 61 years of age. And again, we understand this when we're talking about interest rates and the threat to democracy that inflation, right? Inflation is a threat to democracy, 100%, because we know that the affluent don't need lines of credit and they can go out and they can keep purchasing and credit does not hurt them as much. When inflation comes through and we're talking about the less affluent that need the lines of credit, they are disproportionately affected. And so this is why we're seeing this big swing right here, right? We say all buyers, the median age is 56, and repeat buyers is 61. this is where we're looking at this data and we're saying this is more the affluent buyer. We're looking at this thing, we're talking about baby boomers, right? We're talking about baby boomers. We know that most of the generational wealth in the world right now is in the hands of baby boomers. And then we can actually go see. And so 38 years of age, we're talking about millennials. And so this is a millennial population that at 38 years of age. And so when you're thinking about this, 38 years old is what the median for first time home buyer again. And so it's taking out all the outliers and it's bringing them in and saying the vast majority of people buying the houses right now that are a first time home buyer are 38 years old. And so that kind of just goes through. And like when you're thinking about, yes, it doesn't mean that, someone in their 20s can't go buy a house. And it doesn't mean that someone in their teens, I guess, could buy a house, right? Especially with YouTube and everything else going on, sports, right? We have people that could do it. Yet, as we're getting into this business planning section, right, we should be actually thinking like, what does my database look like and who should I be reaching out to, knowing that first time home buyers are around 38 years old right now. So what does my marketing look like? And I did want to show you guys this as well. So looking at commission rates. So here's real estate commissions for 2024. Commission rates for properties over $1 million have been dropping since the 17th of August. So cool, let's look at this. So this is national data. And if we were to look at your under $500,000 price point, based off the information that they're pulling, we're seeing that the commission rate is about 2.43%. Kind of interesting to look at. Now, if we were to look at the 500 to 999, so almost $1 million, the commission rate is around 2.24%. And then over $1 million is 2.11%. And that's kind of where it's landing right now. So this is where it's really seeing it taking off. And so we can actually see that it's actually going up for the under $500,000 price point. It's going down a little bit from your 500 to $1 million, and then it's taking down a little bit from your $1 million price point. And I would say this, going through guys and negotiating, and I think it's probably one of the biggest thing. I think that what we're seeing two different sides of the spectrum right now, not that one's better than the other, and maybe there is, and it's up for debate yet. I've seen two things when we're either talking to our top producers in that top producer mastermind, or even just some of the offers that we're seeing being negotiated right now. We see people that are actually calling and figuring out what the commission is before they start negotiations. And we're seeing people put the commission in to the contract and then letting the negotiations begin from there. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to do it right now, because I think everything's a negotiation. What I have seen personally more often right now is that we actually have a offer that is being submitted at the same time that the commission is being put in. There's no calls. It's just, hey, 2.5%, 2.8%, 3%, whatever. We actually have seen buyer's agents submit 3% these days. And it is getting kind of interesting as we're kind of going through, and we can actually see that depending on the under 500, we can actually see that's actually going up, that they are asking for more money. Everything else is going down a little bit. And I think that we've seen a lot of blanket 2.5s. And I don't know what the psychology of the 2.5 is right now, but we've been seeing a lot of blanket offers just coming in at that percentage amount. And the very last thing, because I think it's important, here we are with interest rates. So guys, we are, welcome to election day. And hopefully you guys all went out and voted, or that you're on your way to go vote today, and Godspeed, because I can't even imagine what those lines look like right now. I am sure it is crazy town. And so much so to where I'm getting communication about, let's just make sure that, everything's on the up and up, which is kind of funny. So with that being said, don't post anything crazy on social media about the election. But if we're looking at this thing, let all the other crazies do that. If we're looking at this thing, we got 30-year conforming, we got FHA, and guys, it's going up and it's going up and it's going up and it's going up. And look, there's a little bit of a tick down for FHA. And yet we don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. And there's a lot of states right now that are saying that they're going to take, 30 plus days to get their counts in. We know this is going to be contested. We know this is going to be a very, very contested election. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been seeing the stuff. Like it's not friendly out there right now. And so interest rates are going up. And I think that as we're going through and we're kind of looking at this and having the conversations with our buyers, we're obviously not date the rate, marry the house people. Like that's not the conversation that we're having. We can say historically speaking, right? Like we could go to historic numbers and just kind of talk about this. Obviously, this is 2023, and like we're getting back up there again, right? Like here's the April of 2024. We're not too far off. Like we are climbing, and it's kind of a little bit leveled out and kind of gone down a little bit, but kind of spiked back up again. I think we just need to be having the conversations. Here's your 1 month time frame. So again, this is 30 days, October 7th, all the way through. It's going in and it's jumping up. We'll see what the election does. I think that we believe that a lot of these numbers are baked in because of what the market believes would be the worst case scenario. They have baked in the numbers, and that's why they have landed where they are. And obviously, we're seeing bonds and stuff move around because again, we're seeing what we're seeing. And so I think as we're going through having the conversations, we don't know. Elections don't typically have this kind of impact, but they are this year. We've never seen big changes like this yet with two different economic policies. We're seeing big fluctuations right here. So just want to point you guys to where we are. We're a little bit higher. We've been rising, and we probably won't see any real relief until after everything's been tallied. And I think the only real things that we could see is it flat. I don't think it goes up. I think it stays either flat or it could come down. I think those are the only two outcomes we see in the next 30 days. So again, stay safe out there with the elections.